Before we dive into the jaw-dropping court documents and the hidden depositions that rocked the Brown family to its foundation, we rely on your support. Our small team works diligently to bring you the deepest dives and the most exclusive theories on the reality shows you enjoy. If you enjoy this kind of in-depth analysis, please take a moment to click the like button, and if you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss part 2 of this explosive report. Your support is what helps us continue digging. Thank you. Now, let's get back to the story. In order to really see how everything fell apart, we can't just start at the very beginning. We have to start at the breaking point. When Kody Brown packed up and moved out of Flagstaff for Utah in 2021, she clearly put down a marker. She took Truly with her, and for a time, Cody was happy with an unstated long-distance agreement. He'd drop by every now and then. Phone calls were made. On the face of it, things seemed amicable. But behind doors, those in Kody's inner circle described a very different picture. The working it out never happened. His visits became less frequent, phone calls brief and chilly. A confirmed source, formerly a member of the show's crew, told us this simmering resentment boiled over in the spring of 2023. And it wasn't some blazing row that prompted the legal action. It was something much more minor, disconcertingly mundane, a medical crisis. An insider described that Truly had suffered from a severe asthma attack one late night, bad enough that Kody brought her into the ER in a hurry. Alone and scared, she phoned Cody once, twice, 3 times 4, voicemail each time. Panicked, she texted him, but he didn't respond, not for an hour, not for 2. Our source told us that Cody finally called back around 7 a.m. with a text she sent him saying, "Is she okay now? I was sleeping, had my phone on silent." For Kody, that was the final straw. It wasn't just about the unanswered calls, it was the realization, accumulated over years of imagined indifference, that in a real emergency, Cody wasn't a co-parent. He was a roadblock. Within weeks, she had retained one of Salt Lake City's toughest family law firms, intent on winning sole physical and legal custody of Truly Grace Brown. The battle was formally underway. Kody's lawyers did not require private eyes or clandestine witnesses. Their strongest witness was right in front of them. Cody's words, based on a leaked version of the filing, which a vetted source read, the neglect claim rested solely on more than a decade's worth of sister wives' video. Their approach was ruthless and genius, established Cody's unfitness not through rumor, but through his own on-air history. The filing, sources said, was structured like a script, referencing seasons and episodes, a highlight reel of his worst parenting missteps, not presented as family drama, but as a documented trend of neglect. At the heart of their case was the traumatic and infamous Isabel scoliosis surgery. Our legal expert, veteran family lawyer James Corin, broke down its significance. Family court judges are looking for patterns of behavior. A single misstep can be forgiven, but a written record is not the same. The surgery mishap is heartbreaking legally. A child undergoing a life-altering procedure, pleading with her father to be present, while refusing, and his on-camera rationale. Very weak. Kody and Isabel were self-isolating. They were being careful. The world was learning to operate safely. A judge would not view this as responsible. He'd view this as abandonment, Corin continued. What it actually demonstrates is that Cody put himself and his convenience, and his rules, ahead of his daughter's acute need for comfort in a time of crisis. Kody's attorneys did not present it as an old wound, but as proof of what was to come, and in a leaked summary of their opening argument they wrote, "This is only the beginning." From there, the case broadened out from medical neglect into emotional abandonment in the time of COVID. Court filings, sources confirm, included a detailed calendar of 2020 and 2021, detailing how many days Cody was at Kody's versus Robyn's. The disparity was absurd. And to hammer it home, Kody's attorneys employed Cody's own words on the show, turning what originally aired as family drama into incriminating proof of neglect. This wasn't a father slipping out of his child's life. This was Cody deliberately, consciously pulling away. Kody's lawyers reportedly even cited psychology studies on what happens to children when parents are absent, saying that Cody's so-called COVID procedures were merely a flimsy excuse, hiding a far greater emotional withdrawal. The strongest evidence against the neglect case, however, came directly from Cody himself. His own acknowledgement of how little love or regard he still had for Christine, and indirectly for their children. Although it could have been dismissed as a marriage problem, Christine's attorneys recast it as a parenting issue. Their query to the court was straightforward, but fatal. Can a man ever be an active, loving father within a home where he maintains open resentment for the child's mother? They cited the notorious knife in the kidneys remark as evidence of the hostility. Legal commentator James Corran broke it down like this. This is an exceedingly advanced argument. They're connecting the dots, demonstrating it is not only a bad marriage, but a poisonous atmosphere for a child. When a father shows that level of bitterness and coldness against the child's mother, the principal caregiver, it produces emotional instability. It hurts the child directly. The argument is Cody simply can't differentiate his anger against Christine from his obligation to Truly. The image Christine's team created was devastating. A father who was missing in the face of a medical crisis, emotionally absent during a worldwide pandemic, and flat-out hostile within the walls of the home. Not a patriarch, but a sworn failure at fatherhood. And just as the court was considering Christine's testimony, came another bombshell. This one that accused not just Cody, but his preferred wife, Robyn. This was the alliance, Janelle's hidden affidavit. Cody and his lawyers, insiders say, had anticipated Christine's allegations. They had their counter-narratives at the ready, that Christine was bitter, that she was embellishing, or that Cody's decisions were in the best interest of safeguarding the family. But they didn't think they would get a sworn affidavit from Janelle Brown herself, one filed on behalf of Christine. When Janelle's affidavit arrived, her camp was in shock. Our source says Janelle was always the level-headed one, the voice of reason. She'd always been regarded as the rational, calm one. Her testimony meant a lot, and she didn't merely repeat Christine's allegations of neglect. She brought with her a much more sinister accusation, parental alienation. Whereas Christine's petition was largely centered on Cody's relationship with Truly, Janelle's affidavit directed the court's attention towards Cody and Robyn's children, Solomon and Ariella. Having lived for years next door to Robyn in the cul-de-sac, and having spent a great deal of time in Flagstaff prior to her own breakup, Janelle had witnessed firsthand the dynamics of that household. Her words, as described by someone with knowledge of them, were chilling. Parental alienation is a serious legal charge. It is when a parent actively attempts to taint a child's relationship with the other parent, or in this strange instance, with their extended family and siblings. As James Corran put it, this is a game changer. Neglect is passive, alienation is active. It is not absence, it is manipulation, it is psychological warfare. If Janelle put credible first-hand illustrations on the table, the court's whole perception of Cody would be altered. He wouldn't just appear a disengaged dad, he'd appear a manipulative, dangerous one. And by our accounts, Janelle's affidavit was loaded with details. She explained a fortress mentality within Cody and Robyn's home, where the world beyond, literally, including the other wives and 17 siblings, is depicted as disloyal, disrespectful, and even perilous. Her words repeated sad and strange incidents. She said that after Cody had a stressful phone conversation with one of his older sons, she heard him explain to a 9-year-old Solomon, "See, your brother does not respect your father. That is why we need to be careful." Janelle also outlined a concerning trend of information control. The efforts of older children to call or FaceTime their youngest sibling were frequently thwarted, with the children told they were napping or too busy. She accused gifts from Christine or her children sent for birthdays and holidays of sometimes being withheld for days, and then given with a haughty remark such as, "Oh, look what they sent." And the most explosive accusation in her affidavit directly implicated Robyn. Sworn under oath, Janelle allegedly stated that she thought Robyn was specifically coaching little Ariella. She recalled an incident where the toddler parroted back a line nearly identical to something Robyn frequently said during confessionals. After meeting one of her half-sisters, Ariella ran to Robyn and said, "She doesn't love Daddy like we do." Janelle's summary was a request to the court. This case could no longer be considered simply about Truly. By this time, the case was no longer merely one of custody. It was a trial for the soul of the Brown family. Christine's attorneys had unveiled Cody's abandonment of the children he left behind. Janelle's affidavit presented the court with a chilling glimpse into what was going on with the children who stuck with him the closest. The judge was then confronted by two interrelated but calamitous arguments: that Cody was a father who neglected to care about some of his children and actively poisoned the minds of the others. The setting was now for an all-out legal war, one in which every careless word Cody had ever uttered on television would be paraded right out front as exhibits A, B, and C in the trial of his life. We already broke the news of Janelle's explosive affidavit, where she accused Cody and Robyn of a psychological crusade in the family. Now came the shocking next installment. The patriarch fights back. Cody and Robyn counterattacked, a defense tactic not to establish innocence, but to destroy completely Christine and Janelle's credibility. A war in the courts ensued that would drag the whole family through court, ordered psychological assessments, aggressive depositions, and then ultimately a dramatic ruling that would take away Cody's rights and shame him publicly before the children he pretended to safeguard. This was the day the self-proclaimed king lost his kingdom. Confronted by Christine's meticulously chronicled petition of neglect and Janelle's bombshell claims of alienation, Cody's lawyers knew one thing: they couldn't win by defending. The sister wives' footage was proof. Everyone had watched it. The evidence was seared into years of reality television. So, they pivoted, adopting an aggressive, high-stakes counterattack plucked straight from Cody's own playbook. As described by people familiar with the proceedings, Cody's formal reply, submitted as a declaration opposing, read more like a personal manifesto than a legal defense. It portrayed Cody neither as a neglectful father, but as a vilified victim of a premeditated, malicious conspiracy by angry ex-wives. Our analyst James Corrin said, "It is what is known as the scorched earth defense. Rather than try to debunk the facts, you challenge the motives. The strategy is to get the judge to believe that none of what is being stated can be believed because the accusers are revenge-motivated liars. It is dicey. It can blow up your case, or blow up in your face." Cody's people basically alleged that Christine and Janelle had conspired to use their reality television celebrity status to manipulate a decades-long history of domestic turmoil into a sensationalistic construction of abuse and abandonment, so that his relationship with his children could be broken and he could win public sympathy. At the heart of this counterattack was a doctrine his attorneys termed the Patriarchal Protection Doctrine. It was new, melodramatic, and according to lawyers, legally weak. The thesis was this: as the patriarch of a polygamous family, Cody's duty was not to the feelings of any single wife or child, but to the survival of the family at large. His draconian COVID rules, his choice to spend most of his time with Robyn's family, even his refusal to go in for Isabel's surgery, these, his attorneys said, were not neglect. They were leadership. They were acts of sacrifice he made to protect the family. Rather than deserting his children, Cody was repositioned as the ultimate guardian, a man willing to sacrifice personal relationships for the common good. We've obtained what is alleged to be an excerpt from Cody's sworn statement, and the narrative is bold. It spins his absence as presence, his neglect as protection. But this defense wasn't just about Cody. It also had to address Janelle's direct accusations of parental alienation, which meant putting Robyn herself in the hot seat. Through her lawyer, Cody's, Robyn filed her own affidavit. Sources call it the picture of a woman besieged. Robyn framed herself as the family scapegoat, saying she was targeted unfairly from the beginning. In the affidavit, she blamed Christine and Janelle for jealousy, that their anger about her relationship with Cody had simmered into an organized smear campaign, one which portrayed her as manipulative homewrecker. The following was a purported excerpt: "I have been treated like the scapegoat of this family since day one." The lines had been drawn now. On one side were Christine and Janelle, declaring Cody to be an unsuitable father, neglectful of one child, manipulative of the others. On the other were Cody and Robyn, claiming victimhood of a bitter, revengeful cabal driven by ex-wives with an agenda. With two such incompatible stories, the court had no alternative but to ratchet up. The case entered its most intrusive phase, discovery. This entailed ruthlessly, under oath depositions, where each Brown family member would be required to utter their truth, word for word, with no safe haven to retreat to. And for the Browns, such depositions were anything but routine questioning. They were multi-day endurance tests in which each pause, each stumble, each flicker of anger was recorded and locked away as fodder that could be deployed in court. Our sources have given us a blow-by-blow recount of these sessions, and what transpired behind those closed doors would be more incendiary than anything the cameras ever revealed. Christine Brown was the first to be deposed. Cody's lawyer, let's refer to him as Mr. Davies, aimed to discredit her and presented her as being unstable and hypocritical. As transcripts outlined to us, Davies attempted to whittle away at her testimony, but Christine did not budge. Davies, Miss Brown, you say Mr. Brown's COVID restrictions were a cover for ignoring Truly, right? Christine, I say his rules were enforced unevenly. He used them to not parent my kids. Davies, and yet you traveled during the pandemic, did you? Went to family gatherings by your own reasoning. Weren't you putting Truly in danger too, Christine? I took precautions and followed CDC guidelines. My decisions were about living safely. His decisions were about control and dodging responsibility. Davies continued to press. Davies, did you ever explain to Truly that her father doesn't love her? Did you ever say he was a bad dad? Christine, never. That would be unkind. I've only explained in age-appropriate terms why he wasn't there. I said to her, Daddy has very strict rules for the virus. That is why he is at Robyn's house. Davies, so you confess that you told her he preferred Robyn's house to hers. Christine, I told him that his rules made me have to decide between him and my grown children. A mother doesn't do that. A father never expects it. Sources informed us Christine stayed calm, cool, and firm, refocusing every attack back onto Cody's decisions. But soon the focus was on Kody Brown himself. His deposition took almost 7 hours, presided over by Christine's intrepid attorney, Miss Evans. Under oath, without the bravado of his television persona, Cody's facade reportedly began to crack. Evans' tactic was cruel in its simplicity, turned Kody against himself with his own words. With laptop in hand, she played Sister Wives footage right there in the room. Evans, Mr. Brown, tell me about your daughter Isabel's surgery in 2020. You did not attend, right, Kody? I wasn't leaving my family in a pandemic. It was a horrible decision, but I sacrificed, Evans. A sacrifice you made. Let us see what Isabel felt. She plays video of Isabel sobbing. Evans, you see your daughter there, devastated. Do you still think it was the correct decision, Kody? His voice rising. That is a television show. It is edited for drama. They didn't reveal the hours I was on the phone. They didn't reveal the larger picture. Evans, was your daughter's crying edited, Mr. Brown? Was her suffering fictional, Kody? You are twisting this. Evans pushed him harder. Evans, here is season 17, episode 3. A knife in the kidneys. That is how you characterize the mother of 6 of your children. That is violent language, isn't it, Kody? It was a metaphor. I was angry she betrayed me, Evans. Did Truly betray you, Mr. Brown, Kody? What? No, of course not. Evans, then why punish her? Why pull away from her for months? Your anger was at Christine, but your neglect was with your daughter. Isn't that a fair assessment, Kody, allegedly banging the table? This is character assassination. I love my children. I've always loved my children. This is a farce. Insiders tell us that the deposition was a fiasco. His wrath, his defensiveness, his inability to express remorse. Every phrase was recorded in the transcript, rather than an aggrieved victim misunderstood. Kody emerged as arrogant, self-pitying, and oblivious of his own contribution to the dissolution of his family, with Christine unruffled and Kody coming undone under interrogation. The depositions left the judge stumped, inconsistent tales. He said, she said testimony. The court required something tangible, and so the judge sought out the most intrusive device in family law, a thorough psychological exam. This is the nuclear option for the legal system. An impartial psychologist is called in to interview parents, children, and in some cases, extended family members. They administer personality tests, watch for interaction dynamics, and document a lengthy report that tends to form the basis of the ultimate decision. In this instance, the court brought in a well-respected child and family psychologist, Dr. Anna Sharma. For 6 weeks, she interviewed Kody, Christine, Robyn, and the children, Truly, Solomon, and Ariella. Her last report, insiders claim, ran more than 80 pages. It was handed over under seal, and according to our sources, it held revelations that would rock everything. The Sister Wives team, with the help of insider information, revealed how volatile Dr. Sharma's conclusions actually were. Let's break down her so-called assessments one at a time. Kody Brown came first. The source shared that Dr. Sharma's assessment of him was nothing but professionally ruthless. She marked out prominent narcissistic and authoritarian personality traits. Christine Brown's report was a very different picture, but where Robyn Brown was concerned, the diagnosis became more nuanced and multifaceted. Dr. Sharma did not demonize her so much. Rather, she recognized Robyn as a key enabler of Cody's dysfunction, a complicit actor in estranging her own children, as well as in supporting his abusive behavior. But the worst and most poignant section of the report, the source maintains, were the kids' interviews. In her session with 13-year-old Truly, Dr. Sharma noticed a bright, spunky girl mourning the lack of her father. Truly professed deep affection for Cody, but along with it, a painful hurt and bewilderment at his extended absence. She reported to the doctor, "I know he loves me, but he loves being at Robyn's house more." Her words conveyed an intense bonding to Christine, whom she perceived as her primary source of safety and stability. In the case of Solomon and Ariella, though, the results had chilling significance in substantiating Janelle's affidavit. Dr. Sharma confirmed evident indicators of conflicts of parental loyalty. Solomon showed audible tension whenever questioned regarding his older siblings. His words spewed Cody's propaganda, calling family members unsafe or disrespectful. He confessed missing his brothers and sisters, but stated, "Dad says we can't see them much because they might have germs or bad attitudes." A tragic discovery of a child caught between affection for his siblings and the urgent desire to gain his father's favor. Ariella's interview was even more disturbing. At so young an age, she had learned the family script uncritically. When questioned about Truly, she simply said, "Christine took her away." She echoed lines like, "They didn't follow the rules," with no personal memory of disagreement. Echoing adult speech by so little a child was a screaming red flag for parental alienation. Dr. Sharma's last suggestions to the court were crystal clear. She recommended that Christine be given sole physical and legal custody of Truly. But her suggestions about Solomon and Ariella paved the way for the court's most jaw-dropping action. She emphasized that the court had to intervene to repair broken sibling relationships and reverse alienation damage. Now that the report had been filed, depositions typed up, and the evidence in position, only the decision was left. The last hearing was referred to as subdued, nearly funereal. No cameras, no fans. Just Cody, Robyn, Christine, and lawyers in a sealed courtroom before a judge who now bore the responsibility for their children's lives. Our source tells us the judge was blunt. She spoke to Cody first, "Mr. Brown. This court has heard hundreds of pages of documents, testimony, and a comprehensive psychological evaluation. You come in as a patriarch, the head of a large family, but the evidence, much of it your own, speaks otherwise. A tale of a father who, when confronted, opted for abdication rather than responsibility, a man who punished a child for the alleged transgressions of her mother. Coming to the issue of Truly, the court ruled, the evidence is overwhelming. Christine Brown has been the primary caregiver in every meaningful way of this child's life. She has given stability, love, and consistent support. In contrast, Mr. Brown's participation has been sporadic, and his judgment, especially as it relates to his daughter Isabel's medical needs, gives rise to serious concerns regarding whether he will be able to place the needs of his children first. Thus, in this court's opinion, Miss Christine Brown is to be awarded sole physical and legal custody of Truly Grace Brown. The words hit like a sledgehammer. Sole custody meant Cody had no legal say anymore, no input on Truly's education, medical care, or spiritual development. To the law, he was relegated to being little more than a guest. But the ruling wasn't done. The judge then addressed the darkest heart of the case, Solomon and Ariella's alienation. The judge started, "This court generally does not intrude on the parenting choices of an intact family, but due to the extraordinary, highly public nature of this family's composition, combined with the deeply disturbing conclusions contained in Dr. Sharma's report, this court feels it must intervene in the best interests of Solomon and Ariella Brown. The evidence," the judge said, revealed undeniable proof that these children were being methodically isolated from their 17 siblings, a central and fundamental component of their family identity. They were being brought up in an environment of separation and distrust the court concluded was emotionally damaging. Cody and Robyn leaned forward in shock at that instant. What was going on? Surely this couldn't be happening. The judge went on. This court is not changing the primary custody of Solomon and Ariella. Therefore, they will stay with Mr. and Mrs. Robyn Brown. Nevertheless, the damage done must now be actively repaired. Therefore, this court orders the following for at least 6 months. All visitation and parenting time between Mr. Brown and his children, Solomon and Ariella, shall be supervised visitation. The most severe legal reprimand, a penalty usually reserved for parents who pose a threat to their own children. The judge explained more clearly. This supervision will not be overseen by a stranger, but by a therapeutic supervisor designated by this court. The intent is twofold. First, that no more alienating behavior occurs. Second, to facilitate healthy reintegration among Solomon, Ariella, and their siblings. The therapist will supervise and coordinate frequent visits among these children and their extended family members, Christine, Janelle, and their numerous brothers and sisters. Mr. Brown, you made this family. Now, this court commands you to allow your children to be a part of it. That was the verdict. The ruling was more than a judicial loss. It was the public destruction of Kody Brown's very identity. He entered that courtroom introducing himself as a patriarch, and exited branded an unfit father, prohibited from being alone with his youngest children. It was a humiliating, crushing fall from grace. For Christine, the choice was a hard-won, unspoken triumph. She had liberty, she had serenity, and she now had the unchallenged privilege of bringing her daughter up in safety from years of violence and poison. For Janelle, it was a moment both sweet and bitter. Her bravery not only protected her own children's right to remain in touch with their siblings, but compelled a broken system to heal, even if a court order was necessary to bring it about. But the journey to come, painful and long, the reintroduction through therapy would be tense, strained, and halting. 6 months can't reverse years of emotional harm. Solomon and Ariella were innocent victims in a war they didn't fight, and their recovery would be the hardest path of them all. And what about Cody and Robyn? They stayed back in their big house on Coyote Pass, a lone king and queen over a kingdom of 2. Insiders close to them indicate that Cody is fuming, vowing he will appeal, complaining to anyone who will hear him that the courts are rigged, that his family was taken from him. But still, he can't perceive the reality. He handed it all over. He crowned himself patriarch of a sprawling and extended family once, but ultimately, a judge declared him unfit to be father to his own children. A last heartbreaking evidence that a divided house, particularly one televised for all the world to see, can never stand.